Hello, Unlockers. Today, I want to talk to you about the emotional aspects of decluttering a space. Now, neurotypical people, if they don't have any problems with clutter, will look at you blankly if you try and explain that you find it emotionally draining or challenging to declutter, say, a pile of paperwork or the garage, because they won't understand the reasons why. So some of the reasons that we may find the emotional aspects of decluttering difficult include facing the physical aspects of what you may perceive as your failure. So going through paperwork, old business ideas, fines that you maybe were late with. You're faced with the reminders of your ADHD in a physical aspect, and that can be really emotionally draining. It can also trigger some guilt about wasted money because of things you may have bought for hobbies, for example, that you've never used. It can also trigger a fear that you're going to lose the autobiographical memory of your life if you get rid of an item because it was maybe important to you for an event or one of your children's toys, for example, that you're going to forget the memories attached to that. The other reason we can find it difficult is that sometimes we use our stuff to fill a void in our self-esteem. Or we may have fears of scarcity. I won't be able to afford to replace it if I get rid of it. It provides security, and we may have some form of attachment to these objects. And of course, the other aspect is it's just so damn overwhelming and draining to make all of those decisions about what to do with clutter. So here are 10 tips as to how to deal with the emotional aspects of dealing with your clutter. Number one, make sure that you're not tired, that you're not hungry, or you're not hormonal, because this is going to take a lot of your fuel tank. Number two, if you find it very difficult, buddy up. Have somebody that you trust to help you with it, to help you make those decisions, and you've got an accountability partner in the room with you. Number three, you could distract yourself from the emotional aspect of decluttering by putting, say, music on, singing along, listening to a podcast or a radio program as you do it. Number four, remember that starting is the most difficult bit. You don't have to commit to a certain time frame or to finish a job. Just keep starting if you're finding it difficult, and just reward yourself for the fact that you've tried and you've started. Tip number six, say out loud why you are doing this when it feels painful. So think about how it's going to feel afterwards when you have a clear space and you're not carrying around that literal physical baggage from things that have occurred in your life. So say out loud how it's going to feel at the end. And number seven is maybe don't push the emotions away as they come up when you handle an item or a piece of paper. Maybe step back, try and be mindful, pretend you're David Attenborough narrating yourself in a documentary, for example, and ask yourself why am I finding this difficult? What are the reasons for this? What are the underlying feelings that are going on here? And it'll help you detach from that emotional aspect. Number eight, remember that it will drain your tank if you've done a significant amount of decluttering or even just a little bit. So you might be more volatile, you might be more emotionally dysregulated, even tearful. So fill your tank beforehand and plan a good time in your diary to get it done, i.e. not before you have to go somewhere where you're going to find that challenging or before a work event, something like that. So be careful when you do it, and remember it will drain your tank, and don't underestimate that. Tip number 9 is to focus on what you have achieved when you do declutter and not what you haven't. The temptation is to go, oh, well, I've done a bit, but look at all this that's left to do. Please praise yourself and reward yourself for what you have achieved, because you've moved forward, and that's the important bit. And tip number 10, self-acceptance and self-compassion. Please remember not to beat yourself up, not to feel shame and guilt if you can help it, and to remind yourself that clutter can be a key aspect of having ADHD. We're always going to find it challenging. Accept that and just find ways of moving through it, as we are doing, to try and make it a little bit easier on yourself. But just remember self-compassion, and you can move forward and clear some of that clutter from your life.